Before we begin this video, if you guys would like my full penis enlargement course for free, where I show you exactly how I gained over an inch in length using stretching, make sure to check out baseems.com. All you have to do is put your name and email address and you can get my full penis enlargement course for free. Check out baseems.com now. Yeah, so another thing I wanted to ask you, might sound funny, but how does it feel like having a giant dick? And I know it feels awesome. You don't have to tell me that. But in terms of girls, like what is their response to it? Is it like 100% positive response? Because obviously you had so many sexual partners. Some of them are like kind of scared of it, or how does it go?
You know what's funny, right? Is really I didn't understand that it was that big until I got into the porn business. You know, I do remember this was before I think maybe I had done like a couple scenes up in Vancouver at the time, but I remember going to bed with this one girl, and I remember I pulled it out. She just looked at it, and she said, "What the fuck am I supposed to do with this?" That was her response, right? And we never did really functionally have sex because I couldn't really get it to work inside. I would say in general, girls are positive. Sometimes, especially if a girl hasn't had a ton of sexual experiences, or depending on the guys they've been with, they can be a little shocked. One thing that I will say, in terms, because I get this a lot, and sometimes people don't understand the size versus technique sort of debate. Because I've had some people, even on social media, they say, "Okay, well, you can do all this because you've got a big," right? And I'm like, well, that's not what's behind it. Because trust me, I've seen guys with much bigger dicks than me that aren't capable of giving women orgasm, right? Because they're not focused on the right positions. They're not focused on clitoral contact. There's so many things behind it. It is not like, hey, I have big dick and magically she's going to have 50 orgasms. It doesn't work that way, right? So you have to understand, like, okay, like there's some benefit in terms of, let's say, the 5%, 10% of women that are what I would call size queens, because they do exist. It's a small percentage. It's really a small percentage compared to what mainstream guys think. But have I met some of them? Sure. I've met some girls that are, and they, like, they have their requirements. Just like, some girls are like, well, I only date guys that are 6'3". There are some girls that are like, hey, if he doesn't have a big schlong, I'm not interested. But, I mean, come on, we're guys, we can say the same thing. I mean, I know guys that are boob lovers. Hey, you got small tits, not dating you. Sorry, right? I know guys that like blonde hair too. And they say, well, you're a brunette. Sorry, you're not going to cut the mustard. So, we're all going to have likes and dislikes on both sides of the equation. So do I think about it? No. Do I find it's useful? It's useful for things, for sure, in terms of positionally. You can create some vaginal orgasms easier just because of the girth aspect. But again, if you are really focused on clitoral contact, and that's the main thing that you're doing throughout your positions, then size isn't really going to factor into it. I do think, though, sure, it can be a nice shock and surprise for some women at first. And like I said, there's some girls that like it, but I don't think fundamentally it's going to matter that much unless you have, below the sort of minimum required dose, so to speak, right?
Whatever that means.
Well, and that's individual, right? Like, I mean, I've known some girls, right, that they don't like guys that have big dicks. Now I will say I haven't met that many that are like that, but I have met some where they would very specifically have boyfriends that were undersized because, anything bigger just hurt. So they were choosing
Yeah, I wanted to
specifically.
ask you actually. So, because I've met also spoken to some female porn stars that they
Mhm.
explicitly said, I do not like big. I like it average. Big hurt me.
Mhm.
So, what percentage of girls that you've been with on set, off set, that it was overwhelming for them? It was a problem.
Well, so here we're also separating two different things, right? Because you have the aspect of a work environment, and then you have the aspect of a home environment.
Right.
So I'd be willing to bet some of those porn girls, not all, because there's a big element of truth to what you're saying there. But at the same time, there are some girls that if it was at home and they knew, hey, this is just going to be some fun sex for 15 minutes, they'd be like, oh yeah, the sizing is not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where the girls will complain is they know it's like, okay, I'm going to work. We're going to be doing this for an hour plus. I don't want something that's going to make me sore for 5 days, because an hour plus with the crazy positions, that's going to be painful. And that's not the cost to benefit ROI, especially when you're talking about you're getting paid for the day. It's not that high for them to be with a guy, who's super hung, and then maybe they can't work the next day. So there's aspects of why they would choose that.
Okay, got it. So, out of the sex partners, let's say offset, did you have quite a few that they were like, it's too painful, it's too much for me, or most girls were just okay with it?
Yeah, I never had a problem. I never had a problem
Okay,
with it
got it.
off
Yeah,
that. No,
that
no.
that's uh, that's what I wanted to actually know.